They turned the van around and drove back to the facility. They told their friends, and the cats, what they were going to do. They asked them to stay in the van and wait for them. They said that they would be back soon, and that they would be safe. They got out of the van and ran to the facility. They entered the building and headed to the laboratory. They saw the Queen and the Xenomorphs still fighting the Weyland-Yutani. They saw the fire and the smoke and the blood. They joined the fight and killed the Queen and the Xenomorphs. They showed no mercy and no remorse. They reached the control room and hacked into the system. They activated the self-destruct sequence and set the timer. They gave themselves 10 minutes and then ran to the exit. They left the Queen and the Xenomorphs to die in the explosion. They felt no sorrow and no regret. They felt only relief and satisfaction. They ran to the van and got in. They drove away and headed to the portal. They hoped it was still open and that they could go back to Naboo. They looked out the window and saw the portal in the distance. It was still shimmering, and they felt a surge of hope, but then, they noticed something strange. They saw a small figure running towards them. It was Puss, the cat. He had survived the explosion and had somehow saved them. He had used his cunning and his skills to break the system of the vehicle. He had hacked the GPS and the engine and the radio. He had redirected the vehicle to the portal and had contacted them. He had told them to get in and to escape. He had done what he had to do, and he had done it well. They stopped the van and opened the door. They saw Puss and smiled. They welcomed him and thanked him. They said that they were glad to see him and that they were proud of him. They said that they loved him and that they would miss him. Puss heard them and smiled. He got in and cuddled with them. He felt happy and alive. He was Puss, the cat. They drove to the portal and entered it. They felt a jolt and a flash of light. They crossed the portal and returned to Naboo. They landed the van in the forest and got out. They looked around and saw the familiar sights of their home planet. They felt a wave of relief and joy. They had made it. They had escaped the Weyland-Yutani and the Earth. They had gone back to the future and back to the present. They had gone on an adventure and had a story to tell. They smiled at each other and nodded. They were happy and alive. They were Puss, the cat, Jill and Jake and Ripley ate with their ginger cat, but their happiness was short-lived. They soon realized that Naboo was in danger and that they had to save it. They saw a group of strange creatures in the forest, with weapons and horses. They were apes, intelligent and aggressive. They had come from another planet and another time. They had used the portal and invaded Naboo. They learned that the apes had escaped from the planet of the apes, a planet where apes had evolved and taken over the world. They had been oppressed and experimented on by the humans, who had become decadent and corrupt. They had been led by Caesar, a genetically modified chimpanzee who had gained intelligence and speech. He had organized a rebellion against the humans and had freed his fellow apes. He had found the portal and had entered it. He had arrived in Naboo and had decided to conquer it. They learned that the apes were chasing two humans, who had also come from the portal. They were Taylor and Brent, two astronauts from the 20th century. They had been on a space mission and had crash-landed on the planet of the apes. They had been captured and tortured by the apes and had escaped with the help of some sympathetic apes. They had found the portal and had entered it. They had arrived in Naboo and had hoped to find help. They learned that the people of Naboo were resisting and fighting back. They had formed a militia and had allies from other planets. They had Jar Jar Binks, a leader of the Gungans, and a comic relief, to guide them. They had Böbe Aunt Kenobi, an old hero, and a Jedi Master, to inspire them. They had Anakin Skywalker, a young prodigy, and a Jedi Knight, to help them. They had Padme Amidala, a former queen, and a senator, to protect them. They had BB-8, a droid, and a spy, to assist them. They had Porgs, cute and fluffy creatures, to distract them. They learned that they had a plan and a hope. They had to lure the apes into a trap and capture their leader. They had to use the force and their wits to outsmart them. They had to do it before the apes destroyed Naboo and enslaved its people. They decided to join them and help them. They felt a connection with them and a duty to them. They wanted to save Naboo and the galaxy. They want to be heroes and friends. They contacted them and told them who they were and where they were. They told them that they had a van and some weapons and some skills. They told them that they were ready and willing and able. They welcomed them and thanked them. They told them that they had a base and some traps and some allies. They told them that they were grateful and hopeful and brave. They met them and greeted them. They introduced themselves and exchanged stories. They became friends and allies and comrades. They prepared themselves and armed themselves. They set the traps and hid in the forest. They waited for the apes and ambushed them. They tried to follow the plan and capture their leader. But the apes were too smart and too strong. They fought back and escaped. They ran to the van, where Jake and Jill were waiting. They attacked them and tried to take the van. What will happen next? Will they be able to stop the apes and save Jake and Jill? Will they be able to save Naboo and the galaxy? Will they be able to find their way back to their own time and their own world? You will have to wait and see. We will continue the story next time.